Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. You're a liar. His fork slammed against the plate and everyone flinched. My name is Aaron and I was 29 that night. I kept my hand around my glass so no one saw the shaking. Across the table, my brother-in-law stared like he finally had me cornered. Excuse me. I tried to laugh and it scraped out wrong. Tyler shifted beside me, and his leg pressed hard against mine under the table. That was his version of a warning and a question packed together. I already knew my answer. I was done letting his brother throw little jabs and walk away smiling. You heard me. He leaned back like a judge who already wrote the verdict. You lied about me, Aaron. He dragged my name out and glanced at his parents for support. My skin buzzed because I knew exactly which lie he meant tonight. His mother froze with the serving spoon halfway raised between us. His father stared at his plate like the pattern suddenly mattered more than oxygen. Nobody rushed in to stop him, which honestly told me everything. I had walked into this dinner thinking I could handle a few digs. I had not planned for him to rip the bandage off in front of everyone. What exactly did she lie about? Tyler spoke up finally, and his voice had that low warning edge. For a second I almost relaxed because he sounded like my teammate again. Caleb lifted one eyebrow, which he did whenever he wanted attention. About that story she tells where I hit on her and she rejected me. He smiled while he said it like we were sharing some cute memory. I watched Tyler's jaw work and wondered how much he remembered from that time. Not the details, obviously, because nobody ever got the full version, but the shape. He always wanted his brother's approval, and I kept trying to keep the peace. Back then I thought staying quiet meant control. Now I could feel it cracking. I never said you hit on me. I kept my voice calm because that was my only real weapon. I said you asked me out and I turned you down once. I watched his mother's mouth pinch like I had used dirty language at the table. The difference between those sentences was everything, and he knew it. You never turned me down. He laughed and it sounded bright and fake over the quiet room. You were obsessed with me that summer. You followed me everywhere. My stomach dropped because he was not even twisting the story now. He was erasing what happened and stuffing his own script over it. His mother finally spoke, and of course she went for me instead of him. Aaron, maybe you just remember it differently because you were young. Her voice was soft and careful, like she handled an upset customer. My cheeks burned because this was exactly the script he counted on tonight. He lied loud and I was expected to stay nice for the family. Here is the thing about being called a liar by family. They do not picture text messages or timelines, they picture your face. They think about every time you snapped or rolled your eyes around him. They stack those tiny moments and call it proof that you must be dramatic. My mother-in-law watched me like she counted every past eye roll. I remember exactly how it happened. I put my glass down because my hands had finally stopped shaking. If you really want to do this now, we can walk through it. Tyler's leg pressed harder against mine like he could hold me in place. He knew once I started pulling threads, I would not stop this time. Oh, please. Caleb rolled his eyes and gave his parents that wounded little smile. She makes everything sound worse so she can play the victim. His father shifted in his chair and finally looked at me properly. I hated how a tiny part of me wondered if I should just drop it. That part of me was tired and trained and lived inside every woman I knew. The part that counted plates and tempers and made peace offers before dessert arrived. I had been that person in this family since I joined it. The cool daughter-in-law who never made a scene and always smoothed things over. Sitting there, I realized that role did nothing for me when someone called me a liar. I have messages from that night. The words came out quiet, yet the whole table heard them. Caleb stopped smiling, and for once his eyes moved off his audience. Tyler's head turned toward me fast enough that his chair creaked. My heart hammered, but saying it aloud felt better than swallowing another lie. His mother blinked slowly like she tried to process a language she never studied. You saved old messages. The question hung there full of judgment and something close to fear. I kept them because you asked me to drop this years ago, and I did. I had learned that burying things in this family only helped the wrong person. Caleb scoffed and finally dropped the wounded act for something sharper. She is really out here keeping receipts like some obsessed ex. He pushed his chair back an inch like he might stand and storm out. Go ahead then, read them and sh. Ow everyone, how crazy you looked. He was betting I would not actually pull them up in front of his parents. I could feel every set of eyes on my hands and my phone. If I reached for it, the night would split open in a way we could not undo. They would see every thirsty line he ever sent, and nobody here would see him the same. Part of me wanted that blast, and part of me wanted to get through one dinner. I chose something in the middle because that is who I was back then. I do not need to read them out loud. I met his eyes and watched the confidence flicker just for a second. You and I both know what you wrote and why you are rewriting it now. The words hung there heavy because he understood exactly how much I remembered. For the first time that night, I saw real fear flicker behind the performance. Tyler cleared his throat, and that tiny sound felt louder than anything else. Enough. He did not look at his brother, and he did not look at me either. We are not doing this at dinner, we can talk later. Later never came, and that is exactly why I am here telling strangers instead. Plates started moving again, and someone made a joke about work that nobody really heard. Caleb laughed too loudly at it, and his parents followed his lead. From the outside, we probably looked like a regular family having a minor disagreement. On the inside, I felt myself lean away from every forced chuckle. That was the moment I realized his version of the story might actually win if I stayed quiet. So I sat there and smiled and let them think it was over. I let Caleb enjoy his little victory lap around the table that night. I nodded and helped clear plates and played the good wife like always. The whole time I knew my phone meant this was not finished. He thought I would never use those messages, and that belief is the only reason he got reckless later. Caleb pinned me in the hallway with one smooth step. Walk with me. He hooked 2 fingers around my wrist and started moving. Music pounded from the living room and the whole place felt too tight. I let him lead for 3 seconds, just long enough to regret it. I slipped my hand free and fell a step behind him. He noticed, of course he noticed. He glanced back with that grin people always called charming. Relax, I'm not dragging you into a van. My stomach clenched anyway, and not in a fun way. He stopped near the kitchen arch and blocked the path out. Okay. He planted one palm on the wall and leaned in like a movie scene. Except his breath was already heavy and his eyes were too sure. I remember thinking that confidence looked expensive and I did not want to pay. You know you have been flirting with me all night. He kept his voice low like we shared some secret. I figured we should stop pretending and do something about it. I laughed once because my brain stalled and needed a reset. That one laugh haunted me later more than anything I actually said. I have just been talking. I straightened and put a little distance between us. You know that reflex where you check if anyone can see you. My eyes did a quick scan for witnesses, then came back to him. Nobody watched, of course, because that is how this stuff works. Come on. He followed the tiny step I took and erased it. You stay near me every time we end up at the same thing. He traced a line in the air between us like proof. Part of me wanted to argue, another part wanted this over. I like your family. That sounded neutral enough in my head, then it escaped. His grin sharpened like I had just admitted something huge. So you like me. He said it like we had agreed on terms and now we were signing. That was the first moment my temper poked awake under the nerves. I like talking to you. I kept my tone light and steady and very boring. And I am not interested in anything else. The last line came out firmer than I had planned and I watched it hit him. His eyebrows lifted like he had never heard no used in his direction. Then he laughed and shook his head like I had told a cute joke. You are really going to pretend you are not into me? He looked past me toward the party like someone might be listening. Nobody was, and somehow that made it worse. He dipped his head closer so I had to tilt mine back. Let me take you out once. He spoke slowly like I was not keeping up. One date, something simple, then you can decide. It sounded like generosity, and that was the trick. I could have snapped then and maybe saved myself years of trouble. Instead, I tried to stay polite because that was my default setting. I already decided. I folded my arms so I would stop fidgeting. I am not going out with you. There was this short pause where everything about him went flat. His eyes, his mouth, the relaxed stance he used like a costume. He pulled back an inch and looked me over like I had changed shape. Then he smiled again, only tighter this time. Right, because you are too good for me. That line hooked straight into my guilt reflex. I rushed to fix it even though I owed him nothing. It is not about that. I stepped to the side to open a path around him. He shifted with me and blocked it again with one lazy move. Just admit you like me and you are scared. His voice dropped even lower and it made my skin crawl. Say you do not want to ruin things if this gets serious. His hand hovered near my waist, close enough to feel the heat. My body froze while my brain yelled at it to move. You know, that was all I managed at first, just that single word. Then the rest tumbled out because silence would crush me. I am not scared of you and I am not attracted to you. Watching his expression after that line felt like dropping glass. His jaw tightened and his fingers finally dropped away from my side. For a second he looked almost young, almost unsure. Then his ego kicked back on like a generator after an outage. You are going to regret talking like that. He kept his tone soft, which somehow made the words land harder. I pushed past him before he could block me again. My shoulder brushed his and he did not move aside. He let the contact happen like he collected that too as evidence. In the kitchen, someone shouted over the music about another round. I grabbed water and pretended my hands were steady. From across the room, I felt his stare like a spotlight on the back of my neck. He laughed with a group near the counter and acted completely fine. Every once in a while his eyes cut to me and away again. No one around him noticed the tiny crack in his performance. I did because I had just put it there. Later that night my phone buzzed as I pulled my shoes off. Unknown number, short message. You are really going to play hard to get after tonight. I knew it was him without thinking because the tone lit up in my head. I stared at the screen long enough for my chest to start aching. My reply was stupidly careful. I do not play games and I meant what I said. 3 dots popped up, disappeared, came back again. So you are denying you flirt with me every time we hang out. I realized then he lived in a different version of the same evenings. I typed, deleted, retyped. Not flirting, just friendly, not interested in more. Sent it before I could soften it out of guilt. This time the answer came quick. You will change your mind, trust me, this chemistry is real. Reading that line now, I want to throw something across the room. Back then I rolled my eyes and tossed the phone on the couch. I told myself he would get over it and move on to someone else. That was my big mistake, not the first no, but the way I dismissed the fallout. I underestimated how ugly hurt pride can get when it feels entitled. The next weekend, I saw him again at another gathering. He acted like the messages never existed, which almost fooled me. He greeted me first, center of the action as always, and pulled me into a quick hug. His lips lingered near my ear a second too long. Looking good tonight. I stepped back and forced a polite smile I did not feel. Thanks. I kept my arms folded across my chest like armor. He followed me with his eyes as I crossed the room. It felt like walking across a stage with no lines. That was the night I really noticed Tyler. Not as Caleb's brother, not as the easygoing guy in the background. He was stacking cups near the sink and humming off-key. Need a drink or an exit? He nodded toward the sliding door with a crooked half-smile. Exit. The word came out quicker than I intended and made him laugh. We stepped outside and the noise muted just enough to breathe. So my brother chasing you around yet? He asked it like a joke, but his eyes stayed sharp on my face. I hesitated because telling the truth felt like opening a trapdoor. Nothing I cannot handle. That answer tasted weak even as I said it. Tyler studied me for a second, then looked back toward the house. Yeah, he gets carried away when he thinks someone likes him. There it was again, that assumption baked into every comment. If Caleb wanted someone, then obviously they wanted him back. The idea that I might genuinely not be interested did not exist in that ecosystem. I felt this weird mix of frustration and pity as I watched them interact. I knew then that pushing back meant going against more than one person. Inside, Caleb was leaning close to another woman already. He caught my eye through the glass and lifted his cup toward me. The gesture was friendly on the surface and loaded underneath. Like he wanted me to see how easily he could replace me in his head. I remember thinking, good, do that, leave me out of it. My phone buzzed in my pocket again while I stood there. Tyler turned toward the yard to give me space without making a show of it. You and I would be crazy good together if you stopped fighting it. My thumb hovered over the screen while my pulse climbed. Some people would have blocked his number right then. I did not, and I still question that choice when I replay everything. Instead, I answered with one last line I thought was clear enough. I do not want this, please drop it. The word please was my last attempt at keeping things civil. He left that message on read and moved the game somewhere I could not see yet. A week later, Tyler asked if I wanted to grab lunch. No big speech, no dramatic moment, just a simple question over the clatter of dishes. Just lunch, no pressure, I need a break from my coworkers. I hesitated because of the obvious, because of Caleb, because of all of it. Then I remembered how that hand had hovered near my waist like I was owed. Okay. That one word shifted more than I realized at the time. We sat in a noisy burger place and shared fries and stupid stories. I kept waiting for some reference to his brother and it never came. For the first time, I felt like someone in that family liked me for me. On the way out, my phone buzzed again in my pocket. You two look cute. I did not even have to check the number to know who it was. Caleb had walked past the windows at some point and spotted us. That was the moment the air around this whole situation changed. I did not show Tyler the message that day. I laughed it off and changed the subject and tried to stay in the happy bubble. Part of me knew I had just stepped onto a field he thought he owned. Part of me hoped he would shrug and move on to his next admirer. Both parts were wrong, but it would take years for me to see how wrong. Caleb raised his glass and used my engagement as a punchline. Crazy how she used to chase me around and now she's stuck with my brother. The table roared and the sound hit me like a physical shove. My ring felt heavier than usual while everyone watched my reaction. I smiled too wide because I did not trust my voice. Tyler bumped his shoulder against mine like we shared some harmless joke. Yeah, she finally settled for the better brother. People laughed again, louder this time, happy to ride the bit. Caleb winked at me across the candles and took a slow sip. That tiny gesture told me he knew exactly what he was doing. You remember that party, right? He pointed his glass at me like a spotlight. She cornered me in the hallway and begged me to take her out. My throat locked for a second because he flipped the whole script. He watched my face like he waited to see if I would fight. I remember you being full of yourself. The words slipped out before I could polish them. A few cousins oohed like we were in a friendly roast. His parents chuckled and shook their heads at both of us. Caleb tilted his head and smiled like he had just scored anyway. Later in the kitchen, he trapped me between the counter and the fridge. Relax, I am just giving them a fun story. He reached over me for a bottle he did not even open. They like believing you had a crush, it makes you less icy. My pulse thudded in my ears because he sounded almost reasonable. You are lying. My fingers dug into the edge of the counter to stay grounded. You know exactly how that night went. He studied my face like he looked for a crack in the wall. Truth is flexible when nobody saw it happen. That line sat between us like something rotten. If you keep twisting it, I will show those messages. I watched his jaw twitch before he forced another easy grin. You would not blow up the engagement dinner to prove a point. He was not asking, he was betting, and honestly he was right. The first late text after we got engaged arrived around midnight. You sure you are picking the right brother? I stared at the screen in the dark while Tyler snored beside me. My thumb hovered over delete and then moved to another button. I took a screenshot and named the album something boring. I did not answer that one. Next morning at brunch, he kissed my cheek like a sweet future-in-law. You tired, princess? He dragged the word out just long enough to sound mocking. I almost dropped my phone because I could still see the message in my head. At the rehearsal dinner, he circled back to his favorite version again. Remember when you told me we would be dangerous together? He tossed it out toward the group like he shared a sweet memory. A few people whistled and looked at me with raised eyebrows. I felt my stomach flip even though I knew he invented that line. I never said that. My fork hovered above my plate because my hand refused to move. Caleb shrugged and spread his hands like he welcomed a debate. She forgets things when they do not fit the narrative. His mother laughed and touched his arm with soft pride. That touch bothered me more than the words. It meant she fully bought his version or wanted to. Tyler squeezed my knee under the table and gave me a look. The kind that meant please do not start something right now. I swallowed everything. I wanted to say and hated myself for it. After everyone left, I placed my phone on the coffee table. I want to show you something. My voice shook and that annoyed me more than anything. Caleb popped up on the screen with a thread of late messages. Tyler leaned over, read them, and dragged a hand across his face. These are from a long time ago. He sounded tired, not angry, which made my chest burn. He was drunk, you turned him down, it ended there. I scrolled to the recent text without speaking. The date glared in the middle of the thread like a warning sign. Tyler went quiet then. Why did you not tell me he still talks like this? I wanted to say because you always defend him. Instead, I shrugged and picked at a loose thread on my sleeve. I hoped he would stop once we got serious. Let me handle him. Tyler finally looked at me instead of the phone. I will talk to him before the wedding, he respects me. That last part made something twist in my chest. Caleb respected the idea of him, not the actual person standing here. The talk did happen, I am not going to pretend it did not. I walked into his parents' house a week later and felt the shift. Caleb greeted me with a wide smile and a quick hug. No more late-night texts from me, promise. His tone was breezy and his eyes were mean. He behaved for a while after that. No more midnight messages, no more obvious lines. Instead, he switched tactics and went for jokes in group settings. Remember when you used to blow up my phone? He tossed it out during game night and watched the room react. 3 pairs of eyes swung toward me almost in unison. I laughed short and sharp because silence felt worse. You are confused, that was you. Caleb clutched his chest in fake shock and looked around for backup. She rewrites history like nobody else, it is impressive actually. His father chuckled and reached for another card. Come on, you two were always dramatic. That was the moment I really heard it. Not my complaint versus his, just noise from the kids. Once you are in that box, truth does not matter much. During a holiday visit, he upgraded the story again. We almost dated once before she picked Tyler. He tossed that line out while people passed dishes. My fork paused halfway to my mouth and stayed there. I could feel heat creeping up my neck while I searched for words. You asked me out once and I declined. I kept each word slow so I did not explode. We never almost dated. A cousin raised her eyebrows and glanced at Caleb. He laughed and shook his head like he pitied my memory. She is embarrassed, that is all. He waved a hand and moved the topic on. The room rolled with his rhythm like they always did. I sat there chewing nothing and listening to everyone talk over me. It felt like drowning in plain sight while nobody noticed. That night I went through my phone again. Old photos, random reminders, buried message threads. I opened the one with his name and scrolled from start to finish. Part of me wanted to delete everything and pretend none of it happened. Instead, I uploaded them to a cloud folder and gave it a neutral label. I know how that sounds. Like I planned some future court case against my own brother-in-law. Really, it was self-defense for my sanity. Proof that I had not imagined the whole twisted dance. Receipts for a truth nobody in that house wanted to hear yet. Over time, the jokes got more aggressive. Careful with her, she goes for brothers. He tossed it at a barbecue while handing Tyler a drink. A few people laughed and one friend side-eyed me. I felt my cheeks heat and my hands curl around my cup. Later, that friend pulled me aside near the sink. Is there something going on with you and Caleb? Her eyes were steady and curious, not judgmental. I exhaled in a rush I did not know I was holding. Nothing from me, he just will not drop an old thing. Then he is messing with you. She wiped her hands and watched my face. You do not have to accept that just because he is family. The word family sat heavy between us like a loaded weapon. We both knew how often that word kills accountability. On the drive home, I brought it up again. I need you to shut him down when he starts those stories. My voice carried more edge than usual and it surprised both of us. Tyler tightened his grip on the wheel and stared straight ahead. He is joking, that is how he covers awkward stuff. He is lying. The word came out flat, no wiggle room left. Every time he says we almost dated, he rewrites my life. Silence stretched between us while the road hummed. He loves you in his twisted way, he will back off. He did not back off, he just changed the angle again. At a family birthday, he drifted over while I cut slices. You know you were my first choice. His voice stayed light enough that anyone walking by would miss the tone. I just had to let you settle for the safe option. I set the knife down harder than I meant to. If you respected my choice, you would stop calling it settling. His eyes flicked toward the living room where Tyler laughed with relatives. You picked stable, nothing wrong with that, some people need predictable. The way he said people made my skin crawl. There is a special kind of anger that builds quietly. Not the slam a door and scream kind. The sort that stacks every small dismissal into a tower. Every grin when he twisted the story, every shrug from someone who loved him. By then my tower was already tall and I had no idea. The night before our wedding, he cornered me once more. Everyone else scrambled around with decorations and last-minute tasks. He slid next to me near the doorway and lowered his voice. Enjoy tomorrow, it should have been ours, but I am happy for you. The words punched the air out of my lungs. I took one step back so we were no longer shoulder to shoulder. If you ever say anything like that again, I will show everything. My eyes burned and my hands shook, but my voice held steady. He stared at me for a beat, then smiled slow. Go ahead, see who they believe. That was the heart of it. He knew how adored he was inside that house. He knew how often I swallowed things to stay in good standing. He believed reputation would beat reality if it ever came to a clash. Standing there, I realized he might be right, and that terrified me. My phone buzzed on the coffee table and Tyler grabbed it first. Another alert popped up before he could hand it over. New message from Caleb, preview right there across the screen. You were all over me before you settled for my boring brother. Tyler went very still, then his eyes cut to mine. Explain. He held the phone between us like something toxic. The preview just sat there, bright and impossible to ignore. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. For once, I had nothing ready to soften the blow. It is not what he makes it sound like. I reached for the phone and he let me take it. His stare did not move from my face, not once. How many messages like that are there? My heart thumped loud enough to drown out the TV. I unlocked the screen and opened Caleb's thread. The newest line sat on top, smug and familiar. You chased me first, do not rewrite it now that you bagged him. Behind that, older text stacked like a long bad joke. I could feel Tyler watching my thumb hover, waiting. There is more. The words tasted like metal, sharp and heavy. He leaned forward, forearms on his knees, jaw tight. Show me all of it. No raised voice yet, which somehow felt worse. I scrolled to the top without reading, just moving. There were years of scattered comments and late remarks. I felt every stupid moment I had brushed off hit me again. These start before we even got serious. My voice cracked on serious and I hated that. Tyler held out his hand and I gave him the phone. He read silently, thumb flicking faster as he moved. I watched his chest rise and fall in uneven bursts. Every now and then his eyebrows shot up and stayed there. When he hit the recent stuff, his whole posture changed. He texted this last month. Tyler tapped the screen hard, almost jabbing it. Do you ever think about how it would be with me instead? He sent this while I was upstairs working, right? I nodded because any other answer would be suicide. I did not answer that one. My words spilled out fast, tripping over each other. I thought ignoring him would make it die out. Tyler finally tore his gaze away from the phone. Why did you think it was your job to manage him? That question punched through all my careful excuses. Because I was trained to keep peace, that was the truth. Because every time I complained, someone told me he meant well. Because I knew how this family handled conflict and who lost. None of that sounded good enough now, even in my own head. Did you ever encourage this? He asked it quietly, eyes never leaving my face. No flirting, no playing along, nothing. Shame flared even though I knew I had not. I was polite and I stopped replying when he pushed. He went back to the start of the thread and read slower. I saw him pause on my first clear rejection. Not interested in anything beyond being friendly, please respect that. Then the follow-up where I told him to stop. I do not want this, drop it. Tyler exhaled through his teeth, long and rough. This is not some harmless crush, this is harassment. That word hung in the room like smoke. I felt my shoulders sag because finally someone else named it. Then my stomach flipped because that someone was his brother. He stood up fast enough that the coffee table rattled. I am calling him. He walked into the hallway before I could react. My chest tightened as I listened for the first word. I heard his voice rise, then flatten into something colder. What is this? His tone carried down the hallway. Eyes sharp and focused. Short pause, Caleb's muffled voice buzzing through the speaker. You keep texting my wife like you have some unfinished thing. The word wife sounded different now, heavier and defensive. I edged closer until I could see half his face. Jaw clenched, eyes hard, phone pressed tight to his ear. No, she is not confused, I am reading your words right now. Another pause, longer this time, Caleb still talking. Tyler's free hand balled into a fist at his side. You are telling people she chased you. His volume jumped, then dropped again as he forced control. And that you were the one who backed off. More muffled noise from the phone, faster, almost frantic. Stop lying about her or I swear we are done. That last line made my heart stutter. Done could mean a lot of things in that family. Cutting off contact, starting a war, losing holidays, everything. Tyler ended the call without a goodbye and stared at the wall. His shoulders slumped like someone had taken something from him. He swears you were obsessed with him. He sounded tired more than angry now, which scared me. He says you begged him not to tell me you tried something. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grip the doorway. He is doubling down on that version with everyone apparently. I never begged him for anything. My voice came out low, steady from somewhere deep. I turned him down, he would not accept it, that is all. Tyler studied me like he tried to line my words with Caleb's. Then he is lying straight to my face now. That night passed in jagged silence. We moved around each other, making dinner and cleaning up. Small tasks filled the space where conversation usually lived. Every time my phone buzzed, my pulse jumped into my throat. Neither of us reached for it again until morning. Around lunch the next day, my screen lit up at work. Notification from a friend, screenshot attached. You know Aaron and Caleb used to have a thing, right? It was from a group chat I was not in. Caleb's name sat above it like a brand. I locked my jaw so hard it hurt. My friend added a short line under the image. You need to see what he is implying here. In the thread, someone had responded with laughing emojis. Another person had typed, wait, is that true? I stepped into a stairwell and dialed her number. Where did he post that? My voice bounced off the bare walls. In our fantasy league chat, totally random, nobody asked. She lowered her tone like she stood somewhere public too. I told them it sounded shady. She pushed out a frustrated breath against the speaker. But the others kind of shrugged it off as just gossip. That part hit almost as hard as his words. People heard a rumor about me and just moved on. Can you save that for me? I hated how small my request sounded, almost apologetic. Already did, I figured you might need it. I closed my eyes for a second, backing against the wall. It felt like the floor under this story had finally cracked. At home that evening, I slid my phone toward Tyler. New development. He checked the screenshot, read it twice, jaw flexing hard. He is telling other people you two had something behind my back. Any leftover doubt in his eyes vanished under pure fury. He wants this to be messy enough that nobody bothers sorting it out. The words came out before I could filter them. He knows if the story is complicated, everyone gives up. Tyler stared at the screenshot like he wanted to burn it. This is not just him being dumb anymore, this is character assassination. We agreed right there at the kitchen counter, no more looking away. Tyler texted him a short message in front of me. We are coming over this weekend, all of us are talking. No emojis, no sugar coating, nothing. Caleb answered within seconds. Good, maybe she can finally admit what happened. I felt my chest tighten and my fingers go numb. He was betting again that I would fold under pressure. That I would stay quiet to preserve their family peace. That old version of me was still in there somewhere, shaking. The weekend arrived faster than I wanted. On the drive over, my phone lay face up in the console. We rode mostly silent, radio low background noise. My stomach rolled every time we hit a bump in the road. Tyler kept flexing his hands on the wheel like he braced for impact. Halfway there, another message popped up from Caleb. You begged me not to tell him we hooked up, remember? Tyler's gaze dropped to the preview for 1 second. The car drifted a little before he corrected it. He pulled onto the shoulder and threw the gear into park. Did you ever sleep with him? His voice was quiet, but it hit me harder than any shout. I felt my throat close and my eyes burn. No, never, not once, not anything close. I forced each word out like it weighed 100 pounds. He looked at me for a long moment, searching. Then he unlocked the phone and opened the thread. Gain. Show me every part of this conversation, do not skip. I scrolled from start to finish while he watched. There was no mention of any physical thing from my side ever. He read our old exchanges, the clipped responses, the firm rejections. He read his brother's constant emotional pokes about chemistry. He read the parts where I told him to quit and leave me alone. Then he went back to the newest line about us hooking up. His face changed in a way I had never seen before. He is inventing entire events now. Tyler handed me the phone like it was suddenly mine alone. This is not confusion or bragging or stupid flirting. He rested his head back against the seat and stared at the ceiling. He is trying to turn you into a liar so he does not look like one. Something in me finally snapped when he said that. I was done worrying about who would get uncomfortable. Done worrying about whether his parents would be sad. Done worrying about being the one who ruined the mood. He had already ruined much more than that. We need everything in one place. My voice steadied while my hands still trembled. Text the screenshots, that group chat, all of it. He nodded slowly, eyes still distant but focused. If he lies in front of them, we show proof on the spot. We turned the car around and headed home first. I spent the rest of the afternoon hunched over my laptop, pulling images, labeling files, building a digital timeline. Tyler paced the living room, phone in hand, calling his parents. I heard the confusion in their voices even from across the room. Mom, we need to talk as a group tonight. Short pause, then more muffled questions through the speaker. It is about Caleb and Aaron, and it is serious. I flinched when I heard my name like a verdict. He ended the call and looked at the folder on my screen. You sure you are ready for this? His tone held both worry and a new kind of loyalty. I stared at the rows of dates and tiny previews. Every ignored text, every rumor, every sly line, all lined up. I am not ready at all, but I am done being quiet. Caleb laughed when we walked into his parents' living room. Not nervous at all, just loud and relaxed on the couch. We came in carrying nothing except my laptop and a tight promise. You bringing slides or just bad vibes? I forced my hands to stay loose while my spine felt electric. Tyler stayed standing while everyone else settled like this was routine. Nobody leaves, we are dealing with this right now. His voice cut through the chatter and shut the room down fast. Caleb stretched his arms out and smirked like this was entertainment. He leaned back as if he had already beaten charges nobody read yet. His mother glanced between us with a strained, almost smile. Is this about that little misunderstanding at dinner? She used that word and I felt something twist under my ribs. Tyler shifted closer to me and nodded toward the laptop. This is about my brother harassing my wife and lying about her. Caleb's smile dropped for a second, then bounced back brighter. There she goes again, making drama out of old harmless flirting. He sprang to his feet like he wanted a bigger stage. You really dragged everyone here because you regret coming on to me. I tasted acid in my mouth and swallowed it back down. I never pursued you. My voice came out clearer than I expected, almost calm. I rejected you and you have been rewriting that ever since. I opened the laptop and turned the screen toward the group. You want to talk about it, we can do it with receipts. His father frowned at the word and rubbed his temples slowly. This sounds like something you two should handle privately. That line right there is how this garbage grows. Keep it quiet, keep it behind doors, keep the story blurry. I shook my head because we were far past private damage. Caleb snorted and folded his arms over his chest. Go ahead, cherry pick whatever texts you think help your story. He looked at his parents instead of at us, performing again. She has been obsessed with me since before you ever noticed her. My fingers hovered above the trackpad before I clicked open. First image, earliest message, big on the screen between us. Hey, you know you want to give us a shot, stop pretending. Under it, my answer timestamped right after. I like you as part of the family, nothing more, please stop. I watched his mother read each line twice, lips moving. This is you pushing and me declining from day one. My pulse roared in my ears, yet my voice stayed even. You told people I begged you for a chance that night. I clicked to the next one before anyone could spin it. There is no universe where that looks like me chasing you. Caleb lifted his hands like that proved his point. She left out all the times she hit me up first. Then show them. Those words jumped out of me before I even planned them. If I ever sent flirty texts, pull them up. Right now, his phone was in his pocket, I knew that already. If there were messages from me throwing myself at him, now was perfect. He unlocked the screen with a tight jaw and fake calm. Thumb moved fast, scrolling, searching, pausing longer than he wanted. The silence stretched until his mother cleared her throat with nerves. Well, Tyler watched his brother's face instead of the screen. I am waiting for the proof she chased you like you claim. Caleb shoved the phone back into his pocket without showing anyone. Some of the old stuff got deleted when I switched phones. There it was, the escape hatch he counted on. Convenient. The word dropped out of me flat and sharp. Because nothing on my device backs up anything you are selling. I tapped to the next screenshot before my courage could fade. This one was from the group chat my friend sent me. You know Aaron and I used to hook up, right? Below it, laughing reactions and a question, is that true? Under those, my friend's reply, that does not match what she told me at all. His father's mouth tightened as he read the word hook. You told your friends we slept together. My chest felt tight, but my tone stayed steady somehow. You never even kissed me, not once, not anything. I could hear my own heartbeat in the brief silence after that. Admitting it out loud made the whole mess feel even more disgusting. Caleb rolled his neck like this bored him now. I was messing around, guys hype each other up. He grinned toward his parents again like they would understand. They knew it was a joke, nobody took it seriously. Tyler took one step forward and the grin twitched. Do you understand how that rumor lands on my marriage? His voice dropped low and every word came out clipped. You are painting my wife as a cheater to make yourself interesting. His father opened his mouth, then shut it again, watching. His mother stared at the carpet like it might offer a script. I never meant to hurt you too. Caleb spread his arms as if that covered everything. She flirted, I flirted, it got blown up in translation. He looked at me then, finally, daring me to contradict him. That stare told me he still expected me to fold for peace. I turned you down repeatedly, that is what happened. I clicked through the folder, letting the pattern speak. Rejections, boundaries, him ignoring both and escalating. Every screen showed my side shutting things down, his side pushing. I cannot make you feel rejected, but I did say no. His mother finally found her voice and it aimed straight at me. Why did you keep all of this? It feels vindictive. That word stung, I will not lie about that. Because every time I mentioned a line crossed, I got told to drop it. I met her eyes and watched the realization flicker, then retreat. You could have come to us sooner. She twisted a bracelet around her wrist, avoiding my face. We had a right to know things were this out of hand. I almost laughed then because the irony burned so hot. You also had a right to believe me years ago, remember? The room went strangely quiet after that line. Even Caleb stopped reaching for little jokes to lighten things. He stared at the laptop, then at Tyler, then straight at me. You are acting like I assaulted you or something. There was a defensive wobble in his voice that had never been there. Nobody used that word. Tyler's fingers dug into his own palms, knuckles pale. But you pursued my partner, lied about her, and spread rumors. He pointed toward the screen with a sharp jerk of his chin. That alone is enough to justify cutting contact for a while. Caleb barked a short laugh that sounded more like a choke. You are really going to exile me because your girl saved screenshots. He looked around for backup again, desperate now, eyes wide. Mom, Dad, you are okay with him throwing his brother away. That last word bounced around the room like a dare. His father finally stood, slower than the others, gaze tired. I am not okay with any of this, actually. He looked from the laptop to me, then to his older son. This is ugly and beneath all of us, most of all you. For a second, Caleb's face crumpled before hardening again. You believe her over your own kid. His voice cracked on believe, all the charm gone. After everything I have done for this family, this is it. His mother reached toward him, eyes watery, mouth trembling. He pulled his arm out of reach like her touch burned. I believe what I can read with my own eyes. His father nodded at the glowing screen, jaw working. I see her shutting you down and you continuing anyway. He took a slow breath that shook more than he wanted. I see you bragging about sleeping with her when you did not. Caleb swore under his breath and paced across the rug. You all forget how she treated me before she locked you down. He jabbed a finger toward me, voice rising, words tumbling. She used me for attention, then acted brand new around you. I felt anger flare so sharp I tasted it again. I never used you for anything. I stood too because sitting through that felt impossible. I laughed at your jokes until they stopped being jokes. My hands shook but my stare stayed fixed on his. Then I told you no again and again, which you ignored. He stopped pacing, chest heaving, eyes wild now. You loved the attention, you just did not want to admit it. There it was, the core of his fantasy, naked and ugly. If I did not enjoy his obsession, then he became pathetic. He preferred believing I secretly fed it instead of facing that. Even if I enjoyed being noticed, that is not a signed contract. The sentence came from somewhere stubborn inside me, steady and clear. I owe you basic respect, not my body, not my reputation. I gestured toward the laptop without looking away from him. And you wrecked both to protect your pride from a simple no. His mother flinched at the word body like it burned her ears. She whispered his name and reached for him again. Apologize, just apologize and we can move forward. Her voice trembled, hope clinging to every syllable. He did not even look at her, which told me everything. I am not apologizing for something that did not happen. Caleb jabbed a finger toward the laptop again, furious. She twisted harmless fun into some creepy stalker story. He turned to Tyler, eyes bright and desperate. You know me, you know I would not cross a real line. Tyler stared at him like he saw a stranger wearing his face. I thought I knew you, that is the problem. He rubbed his hand over his mouth, fighting for control. The line was her telling you to stop more than once. He shook his head slowly, eyes glossy, shoulders sagging. If you cannot even admit that part, I cannot trust you. That sentence hit the room harder than any shouting. Trust had always been the shield around Caleb in that family. Take that away and he was just a guy who lied for ego. You could feel the shift when that truth landed. So what? Caleb's voice dropped into a cold, flat register. I am banned from gatherings until I bow to your version. Tyler glanced at me, then back at him, answer already formed. You are not welcome in our home until you apologize and retract everything. His mother gasped softly like he had announced something unspeakable. His father closed his eyes for a second, then nodded once. I think that is reasonable given what we saw today. The older woman looked between them, stunned, searching for an ally. For the first time, nobody rushed to cushion Caleb from consequences. He stared at me like he could set me on fire with his eyes. This is what you wanted the whole time, right? To turn my own family against me and play the martyr. His lip curled and the charming mask shredded around the edges. You were never worth the trouble in the first place. The words still sting when I replay them, I will admit that. You never want to hear you were disposable to someone who chased you. But they also told me something he did not mean to reveal. I had been nothing but a mirror for his own ego this whole time. And now that mirror showed him a creep, not a prize. You are choosing this, not me. My palms were damp, yet my tone stayed level somehow. You could stop lying, own what you did, and fix it. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a ledge. Until then, I am done pretending we are fine. Tyler placed a hand on my back, warm and steady. We are leaving. He looked at his parents with a complicated, hurting expression. You know how to reach us if you ever want to talk honestly. He did not wait for an answer, just turned toward the door. Walking out of that house felt nothing like the dramatic victory I imagined. My legs were unsteady and my chest felt cracked open. Part of me wanted to turn back and smooth everything over. That old reflex is stubborn, it clings even when you know better. But I kept moving because going backward meant disappearing again. In the car, we sat in silence for a stretch of road. Then Tyler spoke without taking his eyes off the traffic. "I believe you, all of it, even the parts that hurt me." My throat closed for a moment, then loosened as I exhaled. Hearing that out loud healed something and broke something else. A week later, the new updates started trickling in from outside. The same friend who sent the first screenshot texted again. "Caleb is telling people you ruined his life because he rejected you." She followed it with another image from a different group chat. This time someone replied, "That is not what his brother and wife showed us." So his story is still out there, mutating, limping around. Only now it has to compete with a version backed by evidence. People are pushing back, asking questions, not swallowing his script whole. He lost the easy audience he always counted on. The automatic applause. That bruises him more than anything I could ever say. We have not spoken to him since that day in the living room. There are empty chairs at gatherings we used to fill together. Tyler grieves the brother he thought he had. I grieve the family I wanted. Sometimes I look at that folder and think about deleting everything. Then I remember how fast he called me a liar and I close it instead.